Namaskar. Today is 5th September, Teachers' Day, celebrated to remember a great teacher, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan ji. Once he said, instead of celebrating my birthday, it would be my proud privilege if 5th September is observed as a Teachers' Day. Teachers, the builders of nations. That's the only profession which influences how the nation would shape up. Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan was born in 1888. He was basically from a village known as Sarvapalli. That's the first name. Radhakrishnan was his name, and he was an Indian philosopher, academic statesman who served as the first Vice President of India and the second President of India. The term was 1962 to 1967. There are multiple number of credits to him. We have been remembering him since the year 1962, this day, when it is celebrated as the Teachers' Day. He was the alma mater from the University of Madras, from where he did his Bachelor's in Arts and Master in Arts. By profession, he was a philosopher, an academician and statesman, a politician. He became the assistant professor and then became the professor of multiple prestigious universities like the University of Mysuru, the University of Kolkata, the University of Oxford, and the Banaras Hindu University or the Kashi Vishwavidyalaya as well. He was the Vice Chancellor of Andhra University. He received multiple awards. The highest civilian award, the Bharat Ratna, was given to him in the year 1954. He believed that teachers should be the best minds of the country because they shape up the country. And see how his belief is getting into reality, especially with the new education policy where the government has decided to increase the budget of education from some 2% to 3% to approximately 6%. It is 3 times or 2 times the present budget. Another quote which is being realized by the National Policy of Education is, he said, every other individual is to be regarded as your co-equal and treated as an end, not as a means. What does it mean? Every individual should be treated as an end and not as a means. Means every individual is an individual. He needs to be empowered to flower up, to blossom up. He should not be treated as a means. That means the present education system is doing what? The present education system, which is primarily British in nature, they wanted Indians to become good clerks, not decision makers, not scientists, not philosophers. So they created an education system which would groom up the entire school children in a particular format so that they become good clerks. There is not much scope of creativity, which is critical thinking, which is permitted out. A lot of things which are to be learned, memorized by children, leaving a minimal space for creativity, art to flourish out. The new education policy is addressing it, and the education system, which was more like a factory creating out standard products, is no more a factory creating out standard products. Rather, it would be encouraging out creativity, intelligence, and grooming up emotional and vocational capabilities. The first step has begun by the change of name from the Ministry of Human Resource Development. Remember, we were using out children as resource. It means to reach out the end, which is economic empowerment of the economic machinery. So this economics behind education would probably come down with the new education policy, where the Ministry of Human Resource Development has been renamed as the Ministry of Education. Dr. Radhakrishnan's views are being materialized, where every other individual is to be regarded as your co-equal and treated as an end and not as a means for the economic machinery of the country. So good. Another quote. The best teachers teach from their heart, not from the book. Happy Teachers' Day. On this particular day, it's very essential to understand the difference between three terms: a teacher, a Acharya, and a Guru. Because we will be receiving out multiple messages where they would be referring to us as Acharya, sometimes as Guru, sometimes as teachers. A teacher primarily is a person who is quantitatively different from his student. Quantitatively means a teacher has learned out few more texts as compared to a student. So, teaches the student. If the student is empowered out with technology, is much more smarter to remember and pick up more number of lessons from the resources which he has, probably he may become smarter than the teacher. So, a teacher is somebody like that. Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan was a brilliant teacher. He was known for his teaching and was approached to become the President of India. So a teacher became the President of India. The second word which I would like to talk about is the word Acharya. Very Indian, we don't have parallel words in English. Teacher, Acharya. Acharya is a person who has this opportunity to be there with someone who knows the art of living. A Acharya knows how to live in harmony with the ins and outs and is in the process of mastering the skill. An Acharya had an opportunity to be there with a Guru, so knows the flavor of it. For example, I'll talk about two Acharyas. One, Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray. Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray, who is known as the father of chemical science in India, Bengal Chemicals. He empowered out India economically. He existed or lived between August 2, 1861 and left his body on June 16th, 1944, was a proficient teacher. It's known that he wore out a simple kurta and a dhoti, and the same piece of cloth which he will be getting was cut into two halves. He will be stitching out the same kurta for his lab attendant and same dhoti. So both of them would be dressing equal. The lab attendant would be carrying out books behind him, keeping it, waiting out patiently outside his lecture halls, and then going back. Treated equally everybody. Very simple man. One of the most brilliant teachers, Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray. His illustrious students, one of them was Satyendranath Bose. Satyendranath Bose, in the year 1920s, along with Albert Einstein, created out the Bose-Einstein statistics. He worked upon quantum mechanics, was phenomenally intelligent, put India into a very high pedestal in the name of science. So Satyendranath Bose once was presenting out his findings in the University of Calcutta. He invited out Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray, and the entire gallery was full. People were waiting for both the geniuses to speak out. Satyendranath Bose took up Acharya Prafulla Chandra Ray to stage and requested him to speak out. As he was proceeding, Acharya returned back, held the necktie of Satyendranath Bose and said, "Science-er podaite, a necktie re ki kaj?" Means, what is the role of this necktie in learning out science, especially in this hot and humid country? So do you see the qualitative difference? Acharya understood life better, how to respond out to life around better than his illustrious student Satyendranath Bose. The second person who is known as a famous Acharya is Acharya Chanakya. We know Acharya Chanakya, a teacher of Takshashila University, present Pakistan, was alerted by Alexander's attack to India. He wanted to unite out entire India and drive away Alexander because he heard the powers of Alexander. He heard how brutal Alexander was. So he walked down to Pataliputra, Bihar, because Dhananand of Magad was the most powerful ruler of India at that point of time out of the 14 major states. But Dhananand insulted and said, "Where Himalayas? Where Bihar? Why do you want me to worry?" Acharya said, "Himalayas to Hindusagar. Hindustan is one. We need to unite it. But Dhananand was intoxicated, held Acharya by his shikha, just held him like this, threw him apart. Acharya was so annoyed that Acharya Chanakya opened up his shikha and said, till I unite India, I am not going to take rest. He picked up a student who was grazing some goats, Chandragupta, took him, groomed him up to be the first emperor of known history of India. I am talking about 325 BC, before Christ. Chandragupta, by the age of 40, had united India, driven out Alexander. You remember? Alexander reached India but didn't enter in India. He could not. The majority of India was left out. History books don't tell us because of obvious reasons. But we know he returned back home and he was so injured and ailing that he died in the way. So, Acharya Chanakya empowered Chandragupta Maurya, and Chandragupta Maurya by the age of 40 years had decided to renounce everything. He had united India. So by the age of 40 years, he renounced everything and became a Jaina monk. As he went off, Acharya Chanakya also went off to his Gurukul to teach. So do you see here, the Prime Minister of United India renouncing or going back to his Gurukul. Difference between an Acharya and a teacher. Megasthenes, who was a Greek ambassador in the year 300 BC, writes down, once he visited Chandragupta Maurya for something, and Chandragupta Maurya said, it is evening time, Acharya works till sometime late, you can go home. So as he came to his home, he saw Acharya Chanakya was sewing his dhoti, the dhoti which he wore. So as he was sewing his dhoti, he indicated Megasthenes to be seated and served him some food and water. Megasthenes waited for some time. As he saw the dhoti to be stitched out well, Acharya Chanakya kept it, folded it, kept it, used out the same diya to burn out another diya, oil lamp, and blew off the oil lamp or the diya which was burning earlier. Discussed with Megasthenes matters of the state, and after about half an hour, 1 hour, Megasthenes was about to leave, and he wanted to know just one more thing. He asked Acharya, if there was one diya which was already burning, why did you enlighten another diya and blew off the earlier? Acharya said, when I was at home doing my own personal work, then I was using the diya which I burn out of my own salary. But when it is the state's work, I use the revenue of the state. So that's how clear he was about economics. He was so clear in terms of economics and how to treat out money. Acharya Chanakya, after Chandragupta Maurya went away to become a Jaina monk, returned back to his Gurukul, and the best known work of Acharya Chanakya, who was known as Vishnu Sharma also, whose actual name is Vishnu Sharma, is the Panchatantra, the book which is written in universal design. It's a layered book. It's a story for children. It's much more morals for the adolescent, and it is basic principles of life for the adult who need to understand it, and it's liberation for many of them as well. So Acharya Chanakya taught children, wrote down books by the end of his life. So do you see here a prime minister becoming a teacher again? That's how a Acharya is different from a teacher. The third word is Guru. Guru is a person who has certain fundamental clarity about life, who has a clear perspective about himself, who knows that he is a part of the whole and has to exist as per the whole and need not twist, turn, disturb the whole to suit out his needs. That's what we have done. We have treated Mother Earth in a way that now Mother Earth has come back on us in form of corona. We are all inside. The virus which is invisible, if we put the entire set of virus, then it will collapse down to less than 1 gram. It's an invisible piece of thing, just with some RNA strands, but it has created enough panic. Enough amount of lessons have been taught to us. If we don't learn to keep ourselves in synchrony with the world, probably the worst is coming in. A guru is a person who understands that everything which is animate, inanimate, in and around has an energy, has that particular supreme power within it, and we need to treat everything with reverence. The skill which he has mastered out is to be learned out by shishyas or other students. That's why we say Akhanda Mandalakaram. This entire existence, which is pervaded by an energy, not even a bit of gap is there. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Chara Acharam. Something which Chara means walks, something which doesn't walk. Everywhere that energy is there. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Chara Acharam Tat Padam Darshitam Yena. Those footprints, the indication of those energies. Tat Padam Darshitam. Can you show me those indications? Tat Padam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Nama. I bow down to the person who shows me these fundamental energies which are going through. That's how a guru is. That's the difference between a teacher, a acharya, and a guru. Thank you and happy Teachers Day.